we will do a communal Havdalah upstairs. So we're sort of in this. Actually, I read a very sad fact yesterday, which is that this is the last Shabbat where the sunset is going to be at 7:30. Going, we're getting. I mean, you can tell darker and darker. So. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you that, but that's that's the truth. So it's really amazing and wonderful to see so many people in person who I haven't gotten to see. Some people since the retreat, yes. Some people for the first time. It's really incredible, and this was one of my very first introductions to CBST, Slichot evening, and so it has a very special place in my heart. Generally, Slichot has a very special place in my heart of just feeling so spiritual and like such the right thing to get us in the mood towards high holidays. I'll do a little tiny introduction to what Slichot is so that we can go into our group discussion together, which is that it's kind of a service that for Sephardim, for people of the Sephardic tradition, start all the way on the second day of Elul, and Ashkenazim start about a week before high holidays, a week before Rosh Hashanah. But it's basically a liturgy of a prayer service where we have these different types of prayers that help get us in the mood, in the spiritual headspace towards high holidays. And so some of the prayers are about ways that we have ways that we have sinned or places that we have missed the mark. Some are asking God for forgiveness. Some are praising God. Some are asking. Some are sort of what's called techinas, which are petitionary prayers. And then there's a few other types, but those are kind of the main ones. So that's the space we're in right now. We are almost exactly a week before Rosh Hashanah, hard to believe. And so we're getting closer and closer and closer into the spiritual headspace of looking back at the year that has passed and seeing where we've missed the mark, seeing where we would like to focus our intentions and our minds and our spirits and our hearts for the coming year. So I wanted to take us into the liturgy of both Slichot and also Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And the first place we're going to start, you don't even have to look at your source sheet, it is on the last page if you want to look, but you don't even have to because you all know it. It's the Ashamnu. So the Ashamnu Prayer, for those who are maybe still starting to get used to what the different prayers are called, is the one where we sort of hit our hearts and Stacy's doing it right now. Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu, Dibarnu Dofi. That was pretty good that I got all four without looking. Yes, exactly. But we're going to say it tonight on Slichot, and we're going to say it definitely on Rosh Hashanah and definitely on Yom Kippur, and it's one of the hallmark prayers of the High Holiday Liturgy, possibly along with Avinu Malkeinu, sort of one of the most well-known prayers of this time in our Jewish calendar. So I want to ask, what is sort of your experiential feeling, your experience of hitting your heart as you say those words and as you say that prayer? What does it mean? Like, what is the reason to you that we are doing that to ourselves? And all answers are welcome.
It's one of those wonderful physical embodiments when we pray. When we say Aleinu, and we bow down. When we say Shema, and we cover our eyes. When we say Kadosh, 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 we come on our otherwise we feel like we're just sitting or standing, and it really, it's like waking yourself up. It's not really hurting yourself, but it's sort of like, and because we do it you can do it in the Amida during Salah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So for those who might pray the Amida Prayer during the week, there is also a part in the Amida Prayer that's kind of very similar, and you can do the same motion. And it's a similar thing. You're sort of saying, I'm not perfect. I'm not a perfect human being. And for sure, there are ways that I have screwed up over the course of my day, and this is the way that I'm sort of reminding myself that I'm a human being and that I have potentially missed on certain occasions. So I just want to summarize. You actually said a lot of things, Harold. So one, you said that that Judaism in general highly values embodiment practice. We are not a religion solely of the mind or solely of the esoteric. We also have a lot of that, thank God. But we also have, one of my favorite things about Judaism is how tactile it is. And so throughout our liturgy, as you said, we get up on our toes, we bow down. Certainly in the High Holiday liturgy for the Aleinu, we sometimes go all the way down. So that was one thing you said. The other one you said was that it's a way of waking ourselves up. It's kind of a wake-up call, which is a little reminiscent of the shofar. And then the other one you said was that there is a little bit of hurting ourselves, that there's a way in which striking is we're actually hitting. And maybe that goes along with the content, with the meaning. Look, we did something wrong. We are giving ourselves a little strike. Beautiful, all of them. Randy?
I was at a Jewish learning many years ago, and the rabbi's wife taught us that in addition to striking ourselves, to kind of caress
Beautiful.
that spot.
Beautiful.
So I always do that, so that I'm giving myself a little
Beautiful.
love and compassion.
Beautiful. A little bit of compassionate, kind of like how you might rub someone's back. Really gorgeous. Anybody else? Yeah, and tell me your name actually, because I don't.
Karen.
Karen? Yes. Very nice to meet you.
So I don't think of it as striking. I think of it as tapping.
Mm-hmm. Tapping.
And it's like I'm waking myself up to those things.
Beautiful.
When you say it with each word, it's like I have sinned.
Mm.
Like hello.
Mm.
Not just something out there or punishing myself for it. It's more like these things are me too.
That's really beautiful, and there's something very nice about that, because Ashamnu, much like a lot of Jewish liturgy, is said in the plural voice. We have all done this. And so there is a nice thing about what you said about how there's a way in which our mouths are saying we've all communally messed up or done something that we could have done better, but also me personally, also I have. So that's really, really lovely. Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah, Sarah.
Yeah, it's also by the time you get to the Ashamnu,
Mm-hmm.
there's been a rhythm and almost a sleepiness. So the act of doing something tactile is a wake up. Also,
Gorgeous.
coming back, after my father had a pacemaker put in, he was told to, because the pacemaker was on the other side,
Huh.
he was told to do it in reverse.
I did not know that. That is a fun fact. Thank you. Really interesting. So, but there's a way in which, like, it's you're echoing a little bit of the wake-up call, and there's a way in which it comes at a central part of the service where we've already maybe started to get a little bit complacent, a little perhaps sleepy, and we're saying, no, this is important. We have to wake ourselves up for this. Really gorgeous. Any last, David, and then you.
It's funny to think about that because actually, obviously you can do it on the other side, but something about your heart, like there's a kind of a brokenheartedness.
Oh, beautiful. Mm-hmm.
I think,
Mm-hmm.
Messed up, or we're human, we're frail, and we're thinking about our death and all kinds of stuff. And so I feel like that's like if I'm feeling really, really sad or terrible, that kind of feels like natural.
Absolutely beautiful. Right, so just a core theme of Rosh Hashanah really can be brokenheartedness. So there's a way in which that is very particular to this time as well. You're sort of kind of breaking your own heart a little bit. Thank you. Randy, do you want to get the last word here? Yeah, that's fine.
I'll jump off a little bit different. But when you feel something very, like you said, something that breaks your heart, you get a physical pain when your heart is.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of like reminds me that's where my heart, where my soul is, where the essence of I am and me.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I'm doing that, I'm getting close, not just the feeling of the pain, which is part of it, but it's just getting to the essence of who I am.
Really gorgeous.
Bringing in the emotion into the world.
Really, really lovely. And there's something really I think about how, where our heart is also physically in our body. It is really kind of this core part of ourselves. So that really aligns. Really, really beautiful. Thank you. I mean, everything that people have said, really bringing in so many themes of the holiday, some things that I hadn't thought of before. So it's really, really just all of those things are in play both tonight and as we lead into Rosh Hashanah and then as we lead into Yom Kippur. So from Ashamnu, which is sort of, as I said, one of the core pieces of liturgy for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, I want to take us now kind of backwards to Slichot. And we're going to look for just a brief moment at sort of the mirror prayer to Ashamnu that appears in Slichot called Adon HaSlichot, meaning Master of Pardons or Master. Yeah, it'll be the first one. I don't know why this the source sheet formatted so strangely, but it's like halfway down the page. So it's sort of a mirror text to Ashamnu. Because Ashamnu is in alphabetical order, in Hebrew alphabetical order, Ashamnu, Aleph, Bagadnu, Bet, Gazalnu, Gimel, etc., etc. So is Adon HaSlichot. Adon HaSlichot, Aleph, Bochen Levavot, Bet, Goleh Amukot, Gimel, etc., etc. And while Ashamnu is talking about us, the way that we have messed up or missed the mark or could have done better, Adon HaSlichot is sort of the mirror of that. It's talking about God and the way that God is there for us in relation to all of these ways that we could have done a little bit better. So Ashamnu is sort of our prayer, and Adon HaSlichot is the mirror prayer to God. So let's just look at classic rabbi form. I'm really going to take us only into the second phrase, but you can look through on your own. It's actually a very, very beautiful prayer, and we'll sing it tonight as well. So it's nice that we'll look into it a little bit. So Adon HaSlichot, Master of Pardons or Master of, pardons is a good translation for Slichot, but Master of Forgiveness it could be translated as also. And then the phrase that I want us to look at is Bochen Levavot. Bochen in Hebrew means examiner or checker or discerner is the word they use here. And then the word Levavot. So that's a word that you may be familiar with. It might sound a little like some words you've already heard. It's the plural of the word lev, meaning heart. So bochen levavot, examiner or checker or discerner of hearts. But I want to focus on that word, levavot, specifically because it's a little interesting. I would say the other place you've probably heard it, other place you're probably familiar with it is from the Shema, where we say we love God b'chol levavcha, with all of your heart. So right, that sounds familiar, that same strange, lev sounds one way, and then we have this other way of referring to lev, where we double the bet there, levavcha. It sounds a little different. And of course, this prayer could have said bochen halev, or it could have said something else, but it chose to say levavot. So I want us to think about that a little bit, and of course I had us think about Ashamnu, where we were talking about striking or beating or massaging or whatever word you want to use on our hearts a little bit. And so now I want us to go deeper into this sort of imagination or inquiry on hearts. So if you turn the page to the second page on the source sheet, you'll get to the top of the page from Mishnah Rosh Hashanah. Eidot HaMizrach. So my understanding, so Harold is asking that the Adon HaSlichot prayer is from this Siddur that is Eidot HaMizrach. But particularly, I do think that Adon HaSlichot is a Sephardic Slichot prayer specifically. I think it has now maybe migrated into Ashkenazi liturgy, but I think it's probably more common in the Mizrahi Sephardic world, and where they say Slichot every single morning, and so they have many more, Slichot and petitionary prayers, etc., etc. So that is where that is coming from. So on the second page, for Mishnah Rosh Hashanah, it says, at 4 times the world is judged. On Pesach, we are judged for the crops. On Shavuot, for the fruits of the tree. And here's the part that I'm most interested in. On Rosh Hashanah, all the world passes before God like sheep, as it says from the Psalms, from Psalm 33, God who fashions the heart of them all, who considers all of their deeds. So I'm going to read it in Hebrew. Hayotzer yachad libam, the one who creates all of their hearts as one. Hamevin el kol ma'asehem, the one who understands all of their deeds or all of their doings. So that is the proof text for why what we are sort of commemorating or being judged on Rosh Hashanah. The other ones are less, they're also interesting in their own way, but we're talking about Rosh Hashanah tonight. So the reason that we associate Rosh Hashanah with being judged sort of for the whole year is hung on this psalm. The one who fashions the hearts of them all, who considers all their deeds. So it's not exactly Bochen Levavot, but it has a little bit of that resonance. There's a little bit of, on Rosh Hashanah, God sees the whole world, judges everyone by being able to see, to examine their hearts, to discern their lev, their heart, or their deeds. That's the proof text for what's happening on Rosh Hashanah. So now we have Bochen Levavot as sort of the starting point of where we're at Slichot, and we're going towards Rosh Hashanah. And the thing that we are thinking about happening for Rosh Hashanah is that God is judging our hearts, discerning our hearts, and imagining the whole world passing before God, and God can sort of see us in this particular way. So let's take a look at the word lev or levav. And here I brought multiple different dictionary definitions, and I'm going to read them aloud, and then I want to hear from you all which one which one resonates the most, or I'm just going to take this off because it's unfortunately falling off. Either which one resonates the most or which one makes you think something different. So I took for levav specifically. Lev we know means heart. Great. There's lots of things to say about lev. We could do a whole other shiur on lev, but we're doing levav. So levav means heart, or it means double heart, the seat of 2 opposite inclinations. That's one definition, the seat of 2 opposite inclinations or double heart. And actually, for bechol levavcha, what we're talking about with the Shema, that we love God bechol levavcha with all of our heart, they say that the real meaning of that is actually that we're loving God with both sides, like not just one inclination, but both inclinations of our heart. So that's one. This is the other one. Lavav, to join closely or to tie. Libev, to capture someone's heart, sort of more like romantically. And then I added liviva, a potato pancake. So of these 4, we have double heart, or the seat of 2 opposite inclinations, to join closely or to tie together, to capture someone's heart, or a pancake or a flatbread. What is most resonant with you, either for Rosh Hashanah or for maybe other reasons, or what surprises you, makes you think of it in a different way? Yes, and tell me your name also.
I'm Sarah.
Sarah, nice to meet you, Sarah.
Hi. Weirdly, potato or...
I love it. I thought nobody was going to say that.
Because, and hear me out, potatoes are love.
Potatoes are love.
I mean,
Can you say more?
when made you mashed potatoes, or she made a potato pancake for you, or something like that, that was to treat you, to comfort you.
So there's a sort of comfort in the potato. I would never have thought of that, and I absolutely love it. And potatoes are, as an object, a little bit heart-shaped sometimes. There's a sort of, okay, very cool. I love it. Stacy?
Thinking of the wrong holiday.
Yeah, no, that's that.
I was thinking of my father used to love to make the potato lashes, but I
That's good. Livivot is the word for latkes, exactly. So you were exactly correct. Jessica?
I actually love the Italian one that comes
Oh wait, we're not going there yet.
Okay, never mind. I'll hold my thought.
You've read ahead. Adam?
I'm paying a lot of attention to the parallelism in the psalm,
Mm-hmm.
and this idea that one godly part is in relationship with all of our, when I say pen, could be like deeds, but also creations, and that this idea of a double heart could be, we have this one part that like is a divine spark within us that has inherent worth. And then we have this other side of our heart that we are able to discern and we're able to make choices about how we act on.
Really beautiful.
We also have that tension in Ahavat Olam or Ahavat Rabbah, this like inherent love that God gives us, and V'ahavta, which is to show love through responsible action with our levav,
Beautiful.
levavka.
Beautiful. So again, also the mirroring of, we were talking about how Ashamnu is sort of our prayer on Rosh Hashanah, and then this Adon HaSlichot is sort of our prayer to God. There's a sort of mirroring there, and maybe there's also something about Levav that has a doubleness, a doubled quality. Really beautiful. Thank you. Randy?
I resonate with the seed of two opposite
Uh-huh.
inclinations because I seem to spend so much of my life just fighting myself internally. One part of me wants to do one thing, and the other part wants to do another thing. So that's what resonates with me.
That's really beautiful. And in some ways, it's like, the idea that God could see through our whole heart or see through both sides of our heart could be intensely terrifying, I think. Like, wow, all of me is laid bare. There's nothing of me that's hiding. But there's something that could also, if I'm hearing you correctly, there's actually something that could be a little comforting about it, where you don't have to constantly be thinking to yourself, who am I or what am I? Actually, before God, you are who you are, and what you are is all out there and also completely fine. So I love that there's actually multiple parts of you, and God is seeing all of it. Really, really gorgeous. Thank you. Yes, Barbara.
I've said for a long time that you can walk around feeling two things equally. You can carry grief and you can search for joy. And so this really, when I read this double heart, I thought, okay, well, that's what I've been doing.
So double heart, meaning both carrying.
Both things can happen, because there are people that think that you can't have both.
Absolutely.
I'm too upset, I'm too unhappy. Yeah.
But carrying both the heaviness and the lighter
And searching
things.
for joy, very important.
Absolutely. Any other ones that is joining closely or tying something together, speaking to anybody? Yeah.
I'm easily confused, but I am not too clear on what it means to join closely or to tie. Are you talking about like loving? Is I know something flowery to me. I understand that, but I also think of to join closely or to tie is part of a flowery thing as well. Because it's like a binding, I don't know, like a bind, not a binding thing, I'm not talking about binding, binding is sort of like two people when there is a healthy, hopefully healthy relationship, there, or even if it's not, there's something that brings two people together. That for whatever reason that there is another spot.
So to me, it sounds like you spoke through what you were thinking. So there is something. It's actually really interesting, Stacey, that you brought in the binding of Isaac. I know you said it almost like in passing, but when I was talking about the various prayers of Slichot, and I said there's ones that are called Slichot, and there's ones that are called Trinot, which were the petitionary prayers. There's ones that are called Akedot, which means binding. There's ones that talk specifically about us and God being bound together in the Slichot service. And for those who may or may not know, one of the readings that we do on Rosh Hashanah is about the binding of Isaac. So actually binding, and particularly the binding of Isaac, is very central to Rosh Hashanah and its themes.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to come out, but
It just, you spoke Torah without even almost, no, it's
I
good.
know well and I don't know.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. Harold?
So actually, I'm still thinking about Levav
Uh-huh.
and Lev, because when you learn Hebrew or teach Hebrew, and you come across Levav, you say, oh, that's just another word for heart.
Mhm.
But I now want to go back to like the BDB and look at the references, because it feels like it's much less often used, there's a real intention for the author to say Levav instead of Lev, and where Levav is used and where Lev is used.
I totally agree. I didn't do enough. I mean, the first two definitions here are pulled from the BDV, which is particularly the dictionary of the Torah specifically. So you could look up a word in this particular dictionary, and it will tell you where and when it's used in the Torah.
Oh, that's great.
Very cool. So for words that are sometimes more unique, you'll sometimes it'll say this is the only time the word is used, or it'll tell you all of the times the word is used. So I did see that B'chol Levavcha was mentioned here, which is why I said that B'chol Levavcha is specifically a time where you could interpret it as not just about Lev, exactly as you're saying, Harold, but about this sort of I forget who was it, Randy, sort of this this concept of having multiple selves contained within.
Thinking similar to what Harold was saying about the difference between Lev and Levav, it seems like these definitions use the word Lev or use the word for heart when in connection to something else, whether it's another person or God or it's not just like, oh, my heart, it's like somehow in a relationship with something else.
Wow, that's really beautiful. I hadn't even thought about that. So perhaps there's a way in which Lev, the noun heart, could be like talking about heart, like the bodily heart, or some more mundane version of heart. Whereas Levav could be used when we're talking particularly about some type of connection or being in relationship with someone else. And actually that fits a little bit nicely with that second meaning too, the joining together or tying together. Really, really nice. Thank you. Randy?
As Stacy and everybody else was talking, to join closely to tie. The heart joins me to CBST as a family, even though they're not my birth family. I don't have a lot of blood family. And I know you mentioned this at one of your drashes recently, or while you were leading services, I don't recall, that one of the first things CBST asked you was who's your family?
Correct, yeah.
And that speaks to this, the chosen family. Some of us have blood family and chosen family.
Yep.
A large part of what we have is chosen family, and a large part of that is sitting right here. And so now the word is bringing me to my chosen family, all in this great experience during what's about to be the days of awe, and in the middle of a little, as I've been doing all this introspection for the last few weeks, and that's what it brings me to.
Really beautiful. Very, very beautiful. So there's a way in which joining closely also has a little bit of an active quality to it. I'm choosing you. I'm choosing to join myself to you. And there's, a lev connection there, a heart connection. Really, really gorgeous. Sarah?
The joining together is also, the prayers are all in the plural. We're joining all our hearts together when we say the Ashamnu, the Vidui.
That's gorgeous, Sarah. So taking us back again, the Ashamnu is in the plural voice, but the Adon HaSlichot prayer that we're talking about at the beginning, where we're focusing on this Levav word, is obviously directed singularly at God, and there's a way in which Levav maybe is reminding us, and I think this is a little bit what Karen was saying too. There's a little bit that's reminding us that, okay, yes, we're talking about you singularly, but it's actually about all of us. It's actually connecting us with this larger community, this larger chosen family, as Randy was saying. And in the back, tell me your name.
My name is Jeremy.
Jeremy, so nice to see you.
Nice to see you. This is going to sound a little bit...
all ideas are welcome. I put potato pancake in here, so I don't...
Yeah. One thing that I always use as a model is when going to history, when the British issued the white paper in 1939, right before the Holocaust, Ben Gurion's response was, we will fight the British as if there's no Hitler, and we'll fight the war as if, whatever he said, I don't remember the exact quote, but the point is that, that there's life has so many different, conflicting demands that, it's the most meaningful and successful people are those who are able to somehow, and it's very difficult, somehow be successful at navigating them and addressing all of them. So the reason I say this is because Levav, when you, it's a little bit different than everything we've been discussing, but Levav means seeing the duality of everything that life presents and addressing it, and that's part of what we have to do. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur do. We have to see how well we're doing that, because doing that is essential in getting through life.
That was really gorgeous. Thank you for taking us through that. That was I love that idea that the levav, just that one word, contains within it this duality, the doubling, and that there's a lot of themes of Rosh Hashanah, and there's also a lot of themes of just you bringing in the Holocaust just makes me think so much. Just the way there's that famous quote, and I'm not going to remember who said it, but that there's always this question of where was God found in the Holocaust, and the quote that talks about I found God in the way that the prisoners were treating each other. That's where God was in that space, in that moment, and there's something there in what you're saying too. So I appreciate you bringing it on.
The fact that my quote was what happened right before the Holocaust was incidental. The point that I was trying to make was just.
But that's a very Talmudic quality, right? Like we have to go with that flow. So before. I actually thought that somebody might talk about capturing someone's heart, so I just want to put it out if anybody wants to share a little bit about whether or not capturing someone's heart and that definition of levav speaks to you at all. Just to give a chance for that definition to catch on. Hold on, Stacy, because you already spoke, so I just want to see if there's any. Yes, Larry.
I'm jumping up.
That's okay.
But to potatoes.
Oh, yes. I really didn't think anybody was going to go to potatoes.
Well,
I'm so happy.
It took me a while to get there.
Yeah.
My family, we dip potatoes at our Seder in salt water instead of parsley.
Okay, wow.
And we never knew why.
Yeah.
And so I'm linking that to Pesach in the first part of this. Of the Mishnah, because the crop that was most important to my family, who came from Pinsk, which is now Belarus, it turns out was potato. And how do I know that? Because 3 years ago, or 4 years ago, I went to Pinsk.
Oh wow!
And of course, there's nothing left there of the Jewish community, really. But my son and I, our first meal, sat down at a restaurant. And we ordered a pancake, not knowing what the translation was, and we got potato pancake.
Wow.
And the potato.
Sounds delicious.
It was my grandmother's potato pancake.
Oh my God.
It was exactly the way, and it's my potato pancake.
Yeah. Wow.
So there you go. So it was my heart.
Yes.
It really was.
Yes.
This was my connection, 100 years later, to the Pinsk of my ancestors was the potato.
I love that so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so glad I included potatoes. Jessica?
I'll speak on the captured heart and get a lot more vulnerable than I think I was probably going to. And right now my heart is not captured. And when I think about the year 5783, that's really something that I want. And it's hard to want it and not have it. It's hard to want something that you have zero control over. So if anyone knows anyone, no. But I think so much of my delving into Judaism and what it feels like to come into that with a Jewish heart, to think about the words like I am my beloved and my beloved is mine. There is something beyond just capturing, there's an integration in the way that we think of partnership and in the way that we think of that love. And it feels really vulnerable to say, I don't have it and I want it.
That was really, really beautiful. Thank you very much for sharing. And I think it speaks a lot to all of the themes that have been brought up, and also certainly a big theme for me in the time of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It's not just about Ashamnu and places we have gone wrong. It's also where are we opening to, and what are we calling in? And I mean, one of my very favorite parts of all of High Holidays is that part at Ne'ilah where we open the Ark and the Torah is there and everybody is welcome to, I mean, it doesn't happen at all places, but in where you are welcome to come up to the Torah and kind of give yourself over for a minute and just share what's in your heart and what you want and what you desire, and that there is so much out of our control, and certainly especially partnerships. So I feel you so much, and I really appreciate you sharing that. David, and then what you
When I was listening to her speak, I don't know, is this modern Hebrew, the flowering? Is it a flower?
Yes.
Because I just realized we don't have a word in English for that. We don't have a word in English for somebody fell in love with me. Someone fell in love with me, you. Like, we don't have that word. Like, I'm gonna, you, enamored of me. We don't have a word of that.
Yeah.
You know?
What's his name?
Enamored.
Enamored, yeah.
If you're, like, you're enamored of me, so then we don't have a verb that says, I experience you being enamored of me. Which I think is modern Hebrew, is that how you use this?
You know, I have to say, so usually when it says flowery, so this, so as I said, the first two definitions are from biblical.
Yeah.
The second two are from modern Hebrew, as you picked up on. Usually when it says flowery, it's much more poetic, and it's not something that's used in common speech, and certainly I have not heard it.
Okay.
I just thought the meaning was very beautiful, so I thought I'd put it in there, especially going along with joining and tying ourselves and imagining that if we're imagining Rosh Hashanah as a holiday of hearts in some way, that there's something sort of beautiful about imagining this more romantic heart quality as well. Yeah. So I'm going to move us forward, and I'm going to move on to what Jessica had originally intended to comment on, and say I really didn't think anybody was going to comment on potatoes. I'm so happy that both Larry and Sarah, right, both of you did. But I wanted to bring in, the reason that I brought in this potato part is this next piece, which is the parsha where that piece from the Shema that we read is from, is Ve'et Hanan. We read it a few weeks ago? Yeah. A few weeks ago. One of my favorite parshas of all time. And it has this B'chol Levavcha sort of formulation in it. And this is from a friend of mine. This is what she wrote on the subject, and this ties into potatoes. She wrote that she had studied she had gone to farm in Italy, and so she had been learning how to make flatbreads with an Italian friend, and this is the Italian wisdom that her friend brought to her. She said, the word for kneading is impaster. My Italian is horrible, I apologize. Related to the word pasta, meaning dough, flesh, or of course, actual pasta. And this dough, this is the Italian wisdom part, is like a person. And we should relate to kneading as we relate to raising children, gently guiding them into a more solid shape, but not forcing them. That's from this pasta word, and I felt like it had to, if we're imagining leviva as potato, pancake, or flatbread of some kind, it made me wonder if, and Randy started to bring this in a little bit, but if we could imagine kneading our hearts as opposed to just kind of tapping or striking, and this idea of that actually what we're doing is we're gently guiding our hearts into something more solid, but not forcing it. And that's where I took levav and leviva, this idea of kneading and wanting to gently guide our heart toward the right place for us. So with that, let's turn to the very last page here. And we'll read through this part together, and then that will take us to a time where we can just kind of have a little bit of time for questions or comments. And Jessica, I'll pass it to you first so that you can say your comment that you've been holding. So this part at the end here is where I bring the Hasidic wisdom into this community. As you know, I graduated from Hebrew College, which is a rabbinical school under the direction of Rabbi Art Green, who sort of is the founder of Neoclassidism, this sort of new, renewed Chassidism, which takes some of the Chassidism of old and tries to kind of infuse it into our more modern daily life. Not saying that we should go and wear long clothes the way that they might have, but take some of the Hasidic values and wisdom and put it into our lives. So some of this is a little esoteric, perhaps, or a little mystical is maybe the better word. So take from it what does resonate, and if it doesn't resonate, that's okay. You can leave it. So this is from Ha'ari, sort of a mystical teacher. His kavanah on why we strike our heart for Ashamnu. So I'm going to read in the English. While saying the vidui, you should strike your heart on the left side of your chest with your right hand. So he's talking about, as Harold brought up, the vidui that we say every day in prayer, but also the vidui, the Ashamnu for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Your fingers should be curled as a fist. Do this calmly, one strike for each word of the confession. So let's all do it together with all of the stuff that we have now taken in about levav and tying and joining and hearts. So do this calmly, one strike for each word of the confession. So let's just do a few. Ashamnu, Bagavnu, Gazalnu, Dibarnu Dovi, He'evinu, Vehirshanu, last one, Zadu. Okay. This should be your intention. When a person sins, the internal divine flow, okay, here's where it gets a little mystical, retreats back up into a closed and hidden space. Thus, divine love cannot flow down into the heart. This is what we are intending to rectify with the vidui, with the striking of our heart. By means of these strikes, you bring about a deeper striking, a more internal, spiritual striking, to bring down the divine love, which has retreated to the high and hidden place. You bring this love down to the heart, where it is exposed. Your right hand, again, this is a little bit more mystical than maybe I would go to, but I'm going to read from him. Your right hand is a symbol of the 5 manifestations of divine love, curled into a fist. This is why you strike your heart with your right hand, to shake the divine love which has retreated above, and you bring it down into the place where it can now be revealed. So all of that is going in the kneading and the doubling of our hearts, and now also this, it goes a little bit into the waking up that I think a lot of folks were bringing in the beginning, but this sort of asking God, or not even asking, but kind of like doing, what's that thing where you like acupuncture or something, where you like bring the energy down one side of your body. That's also what's happening. We're bringing God who has retreated into a high hidden place, bringing God down into our heart. So that is all what's happening when we're saying Ashamnu. We can do it again together, but I want to take a little bit of time for any comments or questions that have sprung from this discussion.
A friend of mine from work, she's Sephardic, so we're in a little Tehillim group.
Just speak up a little bit if you can.
The bottom line, the short story is that I'm in a Tehillim group at my job. And the leader of this Tehillim group is Sephardic, so she sends, from the second day of fellowship, so she sends things to us. And one of them, she was saying, she mentioned that even when we're in the field, that's where God is, that God is with us right there. So when you were talking about the acupuncture or the feeling of coming to love, it's sort of like, this is a time of year that instead of thinking that some being of some sort or deity is so far away from us, that in actuality it's right there with us.
Right, that in Elul we talk about how God is the most revealed that God could be to us, and so yeah, absolutely, Stacey, beautiful. And I didn't, we didn't even go in, as I said, to the next part of, I stuck us right onto Bochen Levavot, but the next part is Goleh Amukot, which means revealer of this translation says perceiver of submerged thoughts, but it's kind of like the revealer of deep places. And so I, again, just like this idea of mirroring, this mirrored imagery. God is the one who can see into our deepest depths, but also God is being revealed from those deepest depths as well. So there's something about revealing and hiddenness that's really very beautiful here. Thank you. Jessica?
Sure, I'm getting emotional already. Sukkot is my favorite service of the year. So I'm like, yes, heart is cracked open, let's go.
Yes.
And on that note, I came in a little late right as we were talking about broken hearts and judgment, and I'm coming into the holidays this year in that place, when your heart has been totally shattered, and then you kind of feel like, okay, maybe it's like scotch taped back together. And then you're in that place where you take the tape off, but it's still so fragile, and you're like, I don't know what to do with this, don't break it, I'm gonna keep like a moat and a fence and a guard and every single thing around it. And then I come in and sit down and I think about, I read God is gonna judge your whole entire heart. I'm like, wait a minute, we just took the scotch tape off. Like, this is not, we're not ready for judgment. So, yeah. And then reading the Italian passage, thinking instead of God judging your heart as a way to evaluate or measure it, what if judging your heart means God's gonna see it fully and assess it and be like, okay, this is how I'm gonna need it and love it and treat it like that Italian pizza and help nourish it back to its full strength. And so, and then in reading the second part that we read just now, thinking about the taps is like, instead of like beating and punishment, thinking of like reviving and tapping and loving and kind of nourishing it back to.
Yeah, really beautiful. I just love the gentleness. There's a real gentleness in what you said that I think is really beautiful to lift up. And yeah, and then you said the word nourishment, and that's also there. Really, really gorgeous. Thank you. Harold?
Punching everyone's straight to heart reminds me of being in the CPR class. It's like also spiritual CPR, because that's what you do. You press on your heart, and then sort of are the high holidays a time of life and death, of trying to come back to life. In the prayers, Michaye HaMeitim, God who brings us back from the dead. It's sort of like how do we awaken ourselves, restart our hearts for the new year.
Totally. And they say that there's like a certain tune you're supposed to do CPR to sometimes. So maybe there's like, Ashamnu. Maybe I think Ashamnu is probably a little too slow, but yeah.
Staying alive.
Yeah. Thank you. Michael.
That's what we do.
There is another very simple explanation I remember from Hebrew school when I was a kid. We bang our heart, we bang our heart with love to make sure that our heart is here what our mind and mouth is saying.
Beautiful.
And only when we do that does God listen, if we're saying it from the heart.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, so I think, Michael, I'm going to just say it louder because I think people had a little trouble hearing that that one explanation that you have carried from your learning from childhood is that one of the reasons that we sort of tap on our heart is that we're bringing down what's said in our mind, what's in our mind that sometimes our lips have trouble saying, and we're kind of reminding ourselves and God that actually it's also present there. And then what was the last part you said? It was
and that is how we know that God is listening to us, if it comes from the heart.
Beautiful, beautiful. And Michael, I actually think, I don't know where I assume you didn't go to some Hasidic mystical day school, but I actually think
old-fashioned Hebrew.
There you go. But I actually think it really fits very nicely into that last passage we just read of bringing it down. That there's a little bit of what we were talking about before. There's multiple pieces of ourselves. Sometimes things are trapped up here. We don't feel them always down here. And actually, we do this to help ourselves get in tune with our whole selves, our minds, our bodies, our spirits. So thank you for bringing that in. Really, really beautiful. Joyce.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something about the melody that we sing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, which is interesting, if you think about it, it's major, it's the major.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
so listen for it, we're gonna do it tonight.
Yeah.
But it's not in the minor. So, you know, so we associate major, you know, da 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 da, Ashamnu Prayer. So we say, it's actually from a German tradition that we borrow this melody. And the interesting thing is, we sing it in a major because we are confident that God will listen to our prayers, will listen to our confessions.
Wow.
And it's with an enthusiasm, rather than being a fear of singing it and saying those words in the minor key. So I don't know, so just sort of pay attention when it comes about, and it is startling when you think about it. It almost sounds kind of happy,
Right,
you know,
right.
as opposed to what we're actually
Yes.
confessing.
Wow.
So
That's really great. Thank you. Thank you, Joyce. And with that, I think. Oh, actually, Mazur, do you want to say one last thing?
So it was really many thoughts of this good time for asking for forgiveness. Forgiveness for sins. And when we sin, what happens is our heart becomes hardened. What I mean, the first time we sin, we might feel a little bit bad.
Uh-huh.
And then we do it again.
Uh-huh.
And then we do it again, and we stop feeling bad. When we stop feeling bad, what has happened is our heart has become hardened. And by striking it
Oh,
for someone.
beautiful, beautiful.
Not only are we softened, but also like if we break it, that's where the light enters. That's the light of God.
So beautiful, gorgeous, just really gorgeous. That, yeah, there's so much to say there. But the many themes that you brought in are really present throughout Rosh Hashanah. And I'm just thinking of the word that's coming to mind is this tshuva gemura. There's that one of the things that we ask for on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is a complete forgiveness, not just a forgiveness in the moment of when we do the first time that we're doing something bad, but really for all of it. And it requires us to do a full and complete teshuva, full and complete turning of ourselves as well. So I want us to have enough time to really fully be in slichot. I'm so happy Joyce brought in thinking of the melody and not just the words. So my hope is that while we are upstairs, you take some of what was said, so many beautiful things were said tonight, some of what was said as we say Adonai Slichot Bochen Levavot into the Ashamnu, and listen for the melody as Joyce reminded us. And I will see you up there. And I just want to say thank you so much for learning together.